Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and we have another great show planned for us. We're going to be looking at spooky monsters, ghosts, monsters. Because it's basically Halloween. But we'll be doing that a lot now. But we'll be having some fun tonight. But first, while we wait for people to gather in the chat, let me go off and show off some artwork from my own upcoming graphic novel, Scumdogs. But we'll be doing. Okay. Let me go over here. Go to Share Screen. All right, looks pretty good. Here's my Extreme 90s cover. This cover I did to harken back to the comic books of the 90s. Looks good, huh? Basically, they bring you back to that time in the early 90s when extreme comic books like this were out. Well, my comic book is going to be extreme. It's going to be good. My comic book is Scumdogs. It's a parody comic book. I parody the cartoons from the 80s and 90s. You'll see a lot of characters that will remind you of those cartoons from back then, like Transformers and G.I. Joe. But let's see, the title characters in my book are called the Scumdogs. They're supervillains out to take over the world. You see, the Scumdogs used to be pro athletes that competed in superhuman sporting events held with superhuman monsters as the pro athletes. See, they're called scum and dogs because they traded in their humanity for money. They transformed themselves into humanly powerful monsters. They gained superpowers with monstrous forms so they can compete in these sporting events. And they did it for money, for fame and fortune. Transformed themselves into monsters for fame and fortune. They wanted all that money. They wanted to be famous. They wanted it all. So you get the idea they're not exactly the nicest guys around. But what happens when they get banned from sports? The Scumdogs decide to take over the universe. Now, as you can see here, you're going to see almost all of the characters that will be appearing in my graphic novel on this cover and stuff like that. But my main characters, my stars of my book, are Death Mug and Buick Starpoon. Death Mug is the leader of the Scumdogs. He's the purple guy with the metal mask over here. He's an arrogant dictator who wants to rule the world, very much in that line of, say, Skeletor or Cobra, of Skeletor from He-Man. He even looks like the characters from 80s cartoons because he has a skull face like Skeletor from He-Man, or like the leaders of Cobra from G.I. Joe. Like Cobra Commander, he's got a metal mask, and like Serpentor from that show, he's got gold on him, you can see. And he's purple, like the Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He's an arrogant dictator who wants to rule the world. He wants all the best things in the world for himself. He wants to own it all. That's Death Mug. Now, his arch enemy, the guy he's fighting over here, the guy with the pink pompadour hair over there, his name is Buick Starpoon. He is basically a combination of, say, Captain Kirk and Duke from G.I. Joe, because he and his team in the Space Forces are G.I. Joe parodies. But as you can see from his uniform, he looks like something from a space opera. Anyone wearing a similar uniform to Buick Starpoon is part of his team in the Space Forces. And they all sort of look like they're from Star Trek, as you can see from the uniform with them being color-coded. His green uniform and stuff like that with a little star symbol on his, or rather meteor symbol on his chest, you can see. All right. As I said, he's a G.I. Joe parody, mostly of Duke from G.I. Joe, but he's also, as I said, a parody of space opera kind of characters as well, like Zap Brannigan, Captain Kirk from Star Trek, Buzz Lightyear, Buck Rogers, those kinds of characters. He's an arrogant military guy who never admits he's wrong. His ego is so huge that he refuses to admit that he's wrong, even though he knows that it probably, or rather he doesn't care if it leads to disaster, creating huge amounts of damage around himself and his team with them fighting the Scumdogs. That's Buick Starpoon. Now, the other members of his team you can see here are there as well. And because they're G.I. Joe parodies and stuff like that, that means each of them has a military specialty, special skill in the military that they do, like being part of the army or basically driving around a jet plane, but being one of the best pilots around, that kind of military skill. Now, as you can see, this guy over here with the mohawk, his name is Roadhog. His military skill is that he's an army guy. Before he joined up with Buick Starpoon, he was part of the army. Now he fights the Scumdogs. Then you have this, you have this bald guy with the gun down here. His name is Beach Pounder. He's another member of Buick Starpoon's team in the Space Forces. His military specialty is that he's a Marine, just another Marine. Then you have this guy back here in the red uniform driving that vehicle, firing off his weapons. His name is Blast Tank. His military specialty is that he's a heavy vehicle specialist, a tanker. Now, if you get that joke, if you get that joke when I said that, you're pretty smart. You're going to enjoy this book because and stuff like that. Now, let's see here. Yeah, let me do this. Now this covers one of 3 different variant covers you'll be able to back when I put my Indiegogo up on, when I put Scumdogs up on Indiegogo, okay? When you go back it. I work on my book every day, folks, and when it's up and it's done, go and back it. Now let's look over at Girl Friday. She's another member of the Wild Rangers. That's the name of Buick Starpoon's team in the Space Forces. It's what they're called. Now, she was assigned to the Wild Rangers because while the Wild Rangers fight the Scumdogs and save the universe, well, she was assigned to work directly under Buick Starpoon and stuff like that. But because, of all of the damage they do in fighting the Scumdogs, the head of criticism, she was assigned to work directly under Buick Starpoon as his second in command to basically control him and basically mind him so he doesn't do any more damage. But she hates him. She hates her job because she feels like she's basically no more than just that she's like basically minding a bunch of children, and she hates it. Now, if you could, folks, please hit that like button for me. It really helps me fight the algorithm, okay? The more people that hit that like button means the more people will see my content, and it means my graphic novel Scumdogs comes out all the sooner. As well as, remember this, if you want to watch this video as soon as I'm done making it, it will be up on my Twitter page at 777megachris1 on the first. There will be a link on the first pinned tweet for the next day or so, because YouTube buries my videos, so you won't be able to watch this video on my YouTube channel for at least a whole day. So go to my Twitter page at 777megachris1. There will be a link on the first pinned tweet, okay, if you want to watch this video again. And remember, folks, hit that notification bell for future notifications, and hit the part of the notification bell that will give you all future notifications for my videos. And please share this video out on Twitter and Facebook. Here we have Death Mug's henchmen, because in all 80s cartoons, the main villain of the cartoon would have henchmen, and they'd do his bidding, and they'd be idiots. These are my idiots. The pink guy down here is Sloppy, and the blue guy up here with the top hat is Murdermouth. There are a couple of morons that do whatever Death Mug says, but they keep screwing up and destroying everything around, but they're going to be fun when you read about them in my graphic novel. They're just going to be fun. Now here we have Hair Metal Doctor. Hair Metal Doctor is another member of the Scumdogs. Well, he's basically a parody of a character from G.I. Joe, a mad scientist from Cobra known as Dr. Mindbender, except my mad scientist here has been crossed over with a hair metal musician, because I think that's cool. He thinks of all the machines the Scumdogs use to try and take over everything. He's Hair Metal Doctor. He's Hair Metal Doctor. And here we have Miss Breasty Melons. Miss Breasty Melons is another member of the Scumdogs. Unlike the other members, she only became she's basically a parody of another character from G.I. Joe, the Baroness. But unlike the Baroness, she only became a villain for fun. She only became a villain to have fun. She's only doing this to have fun as a villain. Well, to be evil and have fun. Now, the Hair Metal Doctor pinup and the Miss Breasty Melons pinup here will be included with other pinups in my graphic novel when you back it. You'll have a bunch of pinups of the characters. Yeah, the Miss Breasty Melons and the Hair Metal Doctor and Miss Breasty Melons pinup will be included with others in it. Okay, let's see. Yeah, but I will also get all these pinups out to you on T-shirts from Crypto Fashion for you to buy as well. You'll get T-shirts with the designs of these pinups on them, so you can have them in your home and enjoy them. That's as soon as I get Crypto Fashion to make them and stuff like that. But when they are going back them or go look for them when they're up, they'll be good. Now, I looked at my artwork here. Let's go maybe to Indiegogo before we look at some spooky cryptids and ghosts, because it's Halloween, let's watch some horror stuff, huh? So let me go over here, get this up here, go to Indiegogo, and we'll have some fun. And Glorious Rex, not doing too bad. Let me do some right here first. All right. Just a moment right there. Yeah. Let me see this. And Sean Davis's Inglorious Rex has made quite a bit of money. Ultraluminous Universe has made 230. Let's see. Earthbound Part 2 has made 70,881. Now still funding through demand. Let's refresh this page and see if they've made any more money, huh? Let me go up here. Let's see. Inglorious Rex has made 160,630 with 23 days left. Made quite a bit of money. Here I was thinking it's got 23 days left. Do you think this campaign has a chance of making $1 million? It's made 160 already. But we'll know that when it reaches, this is only its first 30 days too. Inglorious Rex looks like a great looking book. You can back it for 20. Well, do I want to do this right now? Maybe I'll look at it later. I want to look at a few other Indiegogos before I do anything else. There's Tragedy, which has made 1,725. It's still funding through demand. Mavericks Origins Ones has made 16,240 with 9 days left. The Blue Bombshells made 32,795. Ooh, Black and White, Man versus Machine has made 45,000. It's got 14 days left. Andy Smith's First Man is doing good. Fragaboom has made 214,937. While Alien Alamo has made $105,446. Godlike the Romulus Saga has made 289,000 with 19 days left. And it's in its second 30 days, so that's pretty good. Let's see. Let's read what this book is about. Everything I loved about magic on Saturday mornings, comic books, comic books and other stuff, well, is everything you will love about this book. Well, yeah, you're going to love this book. It's just going to be fun, bringing you back to those times. Best described as Star Wars meets a whole lot of space adventures, or basically Star Wars meets comics. Let's read what this book is about, though. Yeah, let's read what this is about. All hope for humanity is gone, or so we thought. Let's see. 10,000 years from now, a new dark age is upon us. A man, haunted by visions of a bygone age and a mythical world known as Earth, must remember his past to save the last of humanity on a distant dying world. An age where magic and super science are one. A guy must become godlike to say and do that. Looks pretty good. The artwork in this book looks pretty good. You have 3 different books you can back. You can get Godlike Volume 1 for $25, but you can also get the Godlike Supplemental, which is basically, while Godlike is a 48-page story in itself, just a good-looking book with just telling one story, Godlike the Supplemental will give you 2 24-page stories in it. It'll be a 48-page long book, but it will be 2 24-page stories in it with giving you more background on the history of the godlike universe, more background and telling you what is going on with this world. So you're getting a lot of back history on it, or rather hit back on history on this universe or history on this world. But you can also get for another $25, and each of these books is $25. But you can also back for another $25 Visions 2, which is another pinup book, which also looks good. You're getting a bunch of creators with their great artwork and femme fatales, or rather sexy female heroes, and a bunch of pinups that you're going to love. Looks pretty good. You can get all 3 of these books for $75, the Ascendant perk here, so that's pretty good. So this looks good as well. Artwork from inside the book looks just beautiful. So yeah, go back Godlike. It's up on Indiegogo. Let's go look at this trailer. Well, maybe not. Let's see. We're 14 minutes in. I looked at this for a while. I kind of want to move on and to basically show you some spooky stories. New foes reveal incredible details of unique dog bone asteroid. We could take a look. Well, that's not exactly spooky and stuff like that. When government agencies get involved with sinister monsters and strange creatures. But there's also the Not Deer, an old cryptid still making appearances in Appalachia. Let's go look at this article, huh? Let's see if this has any new stories we haven't seen before, folks. It's tough to keep track of the hundreds of various cryptids, monsters, and legendary creatures around the world. Feel free to leave me a few chats, folks, because I want to hear your ideas on the spooky, the creepy, and let's get into it. Around the world, let alone the U.S., especially those with unusual names, often given to them by the native peoples who first reported them. On the other hand, it's easy to remember these whose names are self-descriptive, like Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster. The fine folks of Phantoms and Monsters get unusual sightings and reports from everywhere, and a recent one caught the writer's eye because it's an unusual self-descriptive name. Not deer. If it's not a deer, what is it? Let's find out. Yeah. I only ran into the not deer once, and that was about a mile away from my own house on a gravel road that cut through some forest fields and goes right near Goose Creek, South Carolina. From that exact point on the trail, the not deer slinked out from between a cluster of trees that should have been too close together for them to get through. It had a giant branching antlers, the kind you never see in real life because they get broken during mating season or the bucks get shot during hunting season. They seemed more like crowns of swords than anything else. This sounds very familiar to what we just read yesterday, doesn't it, folks? I mentioned earlier the not deer felt like part of the forest, enraged and vicious, but still familiar. It just hopped away into the trees and bushes and left me to continue my walk home. These are the key descriptive items from the unnamed not deer eyewitness, a creature that was kind of not a deer, but not deer. In this case, because of its massive antlers and its huge size that the witness described as similar to an animated drawing, but definitely not a deer. Yeah. The Reddit page has a detailed drawing and handwritten description from an old book that says not deer has moose-like body proportions, can run at speeds up to 30 miles per hour, faster, is oddly proportioned with more or less joints than a normal deer, and if forward-facing predator eyes. This particular account is said to be from Virginia, where the not deer is prevalent, but like the one in South Carolina, being close to it gave a deeply unsettling feeling. What pushes this from the urban legend to cryptid are the reports that the not deer walks on its hind legs and has arms with hands in places of forelegs. The site Root and Rock has some other accounts, but refers. Yeah, it sounds like this is something from a fantasy story. These sounds like it could be like a Beast Man from Warhammer or something, or other fantasy universes, or maybe a what's the word I'm looking for? A satyr. That half man, half goat creature from Greek mythology. Or just call it a beast man because it sounds more like that, because the beast men basically have deer heads and stuff. So you get the idea. All right. But this all sounds cool, doesn't it, folks? Let's get on with this. The site Root and Rock has some other accounts, but refers to the not deer as a folk cryptid, a mythical creature seen at night, often in headlights, that is probably a deer, dog, person, or something else in the daylight. Is the not deer some kind of mutant deer? Appalachia throws the idea that these signs might be a deer from chronic wasting disease, neurological disorder, deer similar to mad cow disease that causes severe weight loss, which could make antlers look bigger and bodies to look misshapen, reduced fear of humans, which could cause the ant creatures to approach rather. Well, I used to think about that too, but I think a lot of these stories sound too insane. But I wouldn't be surprised if some of them are just wasting deer disease and stuff. But I wouldn't say that all of them are. I think these things could be maybe disguises for other things. These creatures affect our vision of them, our perceptions of them, and they make us think it's a deer. But sometimes they don't do it right, or basically they make sure that their disguise looks weird so that it frames us off. It could be, folks. Let's get back to this story, which could cause the creature to approach rather than run away, and unusual behavior as it attacks the deer's brain that could cover everything except the walking on two legs with arms instead of four legs. Yeah. Describes the not deer man as a creature. Yeah, there is such a thing as the deer man, with the antlered head of a deer, stag, a human torso, and legs described as similar to either those of a man or deer. Well-muscled, surprisingly fast, and often shapeshift to a regular deer. It lists sightings in Ohio, Delaware, and others. As expected, there are no photos, night cam, cell phone, or otherwise of a not deer man, just oral folktales. A real creature that could be asked if any cryptid, is it a cryptid or an urban legend? Some answer, it certainly sounds more folkloric than real. When in a fight, not deer, Bigfoot. Now that's what should be well, yeah, people, that sounds awesome. Okay, you get the idea. That's one article there. There's some more articles here. Upright cryptid canine observed by teen in Michigan. Let's see. Here's another weird, spooky story to cover. A Michigan teen who was trying to get out their new pair of rollerblades when they noticed movement along the road. The teen then observed a huge upright canine walk into the road. The encounter took place in the area of Watersmeet, Michigan, home of the famous Paulding Lights phenomenon. Oddly enough, the Paulding Lights are also known as the Dog Meadow Lights. I was 13 and just... Feel free, as I said before, to leave me a few chats, folks. I want to hear your ideas on this. Are you enjoying this video? What can I do to improve myself to make this video more entertaining? We're going to be talking about spooky cryptids tonight, and as well as ghosts and other paranormal creatures. So sit back and enjoy yourselves and leave me a few chats and hit that like button for me because it really helps me fight the algorithm, okay? Let's get back to this article. I was 13 and I had just gotten a new rollerblades for Christmas. Since the main road, since the main road where our property sits is paved. Didn't say that exactly right the first time, huh? Christmas. Since the main road where our property sits is paved, I'm just getting back to this article and just move on with it so you don't get bored, folks. I couldn't wait to ride around. I went blaying by myself and stopped to rest for a second on this road. The woods are so thick, there's not much space between the road and the woods. In most parts, I remember seeing the trees pushed down on the road that my dad said was done by bears. He was an avid bear hunter. I remember not hearing any of your normal sounds. Nature, not even birds. The air was still, and the sky would be pure dark. In not too long, I was deciding if to turn back when I heard a rustling behind me, and something emerged from the left side of the road. I assumed it was a deer, and paused and made myself as quiet as I could, so I could watch it, and slumped down on my stomach in the middle of the road. It was about 600 feet ahead of me. When I got myself settled in the road to watch and it looked up, I realized what I was looking at. It wasn't a deer. It was on all fours with gray-brown fur. At first, I feared the worst, thinking a bear had caught my scent until I saw its outline and color. I thought I was looking at a dog until I realized the face was too primitive, like a fox. Coyotes. At this point in my life, I had never seen a wolf in real life, and it was too far for me to make out the face exactly. The Michigan Department of Natural Resources has always recognized that wild wolves still roamed in Upper Peninsula, although they were thought to be in a very limited numbers and only in extremely remote areas. It is conceivable that witness was seeing one of these wolves, but then something very strange happened. Extended its front legs, and then the longest second of my life, stood up on its hind legs, sniffed the air, walked up for about 5 steps, then got back down on all fours and walked to the other side of the woods and disappeared. I don't remember how long I had laid in the middle of the road, staring in the empty space. I saw this thing stand like a human. I remember my jaw hanging down as low as it could, and a pull of drool in the cement under it. It finally clicked in my mind that perhaps I would rollerblade my butt back home as quick as I could. That is interesting story we just read right there, isn't it, folks? Guy encountered a dog man. Yeah, that's right. Very interesting. Watch, listen, and you decide, are we alone? We could take a look at this article. Here's another spooky article we can look at. I guess it's not an article, it's a video. I guess I could... Let me go over here. We got a lot more spooky stories to look at. We're talking about it's Halloween, so we're going to have some fun. When government agents get involved with sinister monsters and strange creatures. I think I'll read this one before we go any further. Yeah. Let's go and look at this, huh? Yes, there really are more than a few examples of how the government agencies have taken interest. Strange creatures will begin with the sinister phenomenon of the Dogman. When she began her research, Wisconsin-based Beast of Bray Road, Linda Godfrey was amazed to learn that a file had been opened on the werewolf-like creature since 1991. The Wisconsin, creature since 1991. Wisconsin tone of Elkhorn has been the lair and hunting ground of a terrifying creature that is the closest thing one can imagine real-life werewolf. And just maybe that's exactly what it is. The monster became known as the Beast of Bray Road on account of the fact that many of the initial sightings were made on that particular area. Linda told me the story first came to my attention about 1991 from a woman who had heard rumors going around in Elkhorn, and particularly in the high school, that people had been seeing something like a werewolf, a wolf-like creature, or a wolf man. They didn't really know what it was, but some were saying it was a werewolf, and that the werewolf tag had just gotten used because I think that people really didn't know what else to call it. Nick Redfern things with Dogman seeker Linda Godfrey. Nick Redfern. Here's a picture of them, huh? All right, get the idea. Feel free to leave me a few chats, folks, will you? I really want to hear from you guys. I really do. And hit that. Let's see if you guys have hit that like button for me. Oh, well, I need to get back to doing my earlier live streams and stuff. I'm sorry about this. I keep doing them late and stuff like that. But hey, it's not too bad. It's Saturday night, so it's not too bad. So feel free to leave me a few chats. Feel free to check out and watch as I do new stories on this. And also, because Creepy Little Book is gone on vacation, if you want to check out something creepy, come to my stream and read comics that are bad for you and subscribe to me. Remember that there is misspelled, it's THERE. But feel free to do that. Let's get back to this article now. Linda added in my first phone call to a bus driver, she told me that she had called the country animal control office. So, of course, when you're a reporter, anytime you have a chance to find anything unofficial, that's where you go. I went to see him, and sure enough, he had a folder in his file drawer that he had actually marked werewolf, tongue-in-cheek way. Perhaps people had been phoning into him to say that they had seen something. They didn't know what it was, but from their descriptions, that's what he had put. So, of course, that made it a news story. When you have a public official, the country animal control officer, who has a folder marked werewolf, that's news. It's very unusual. No doubt it was. Now, could it be like with aliens? They don't know what these creatures are. They know they exist now. The thing that they'd say that during the Mount St. Helens explosion and stuff like that, when that mountain erupted, that the government had, or was it that? Yeah, basically they said the government airlifted Bigfoot off of that mountain who were injured and basically saved them. Could Bigfoot be an alien? Could Dogman be an alien? Could it be some supernatural creature we don't understand? Does the government know about these things and is trying to keep mum about it because they're worried that if people know knowledge of that werewolves and other creatures or Bigfoot and other creatures exist, that it could ruin their basically hold on the narrative that the world is a boring place and nothing interesting happens into it. And that maybe that they're worried that this would inspire people to be more adventurous in their lives and not basically toe the company line. Could be. But let's get back to this article. They didn't know what it was. They didn't know what it was from their descriptions, but that's what he had to put. So, of course, that made it a news story. When you have a public official folder marked werewolf, that's news. No doubt it was. Now, let's get into some of the matters of the monsters of Loch Ness in this book, Sci Spies. Late Jane Mars told of how the U.S. government remote viewers tackled Nessie in a fashion, at least the results were very strange. As Mars noted, several sessions targeting the famous Loch Ness monster revealed physical traces of the beast. And there's a good chance that the Loch Ness monster and other lake monsters actually exist, because it could actually be giant eels. A wick in the water movement of a large body underwater. Their drawings even resembled a prehistoric plesiosaur, often identified as matching descriptions of Nessie. But when the viewers tried to discover where the object came from or returned to, they hit a dead end. The creature seemed to simply appear and disappear, considering that reports of human ghosts date back throughout man's history. The sci-fi seriously considered the possibility that the Loch Ness Monster is nothing less than a dinosaur's ghost. How about the Yeti? How about Bigfoot? No, there was a U.S. government abominable snowman connection thanks to the provisions of the United States Freedom of Information Act. The evidence we have to go back to 1959, specifically November 30th, 1959. The location, U.S. Embassy in Kathmandu, was within the heart of the embassy. That an undeniably weird document was carefully and quietly drafted. Its title was Regulations Covering Mountain Climbing Exhibitions in Nepal Relating to Yeti. Document was put together by a man named Ernest K. Fisk. Ernest, huh? Official position at the time was that of counselor of the embassy. Certain criteria for seeking and hunting the Yeti had been laid down. The document notes that anyone who wanted to set off in search of the abominable snowman had to obtain a legal permit from the government officials in Nepal. The files reveal that Fisk considers it perfectly okay to photograph a Yeti, but shooting at and even killing one of the creatures was definitely a no-no unless that was in an emergency arisen out of self-defense. And of course, there's cryptozoology equivalent, the Roswell UFO crash. 1947, namely the alleged recovery of a number of dead and injured Bigfoot that followed the devastating eruption at Mount St. Helens, Washington State on May 18, 1980. A number of Bigfoot bodies were said to have been found in the area, secretly flown out to destinations unknown by military helicopter pilots. As for the people in the area, there were major casualty figures. 57 people lost their lives, as did thousands of animals. Maybe this is what I talked about earlier. Know that. Yeah. As for the people there, 57. Maybe some of them. Maybe some of those animals were of the differently monstrous kind. Now and again, a story of a friend of a friend type tale will suffice about the saga of Mount St. Helens, but there's nothing concrete. Maybe in light of all the above, someone ought to try and finally get to the bottom of the story. That's what the Freedom of Information Act was. Well, that's why you have it. All right, we looked at this article. Not too bad. Not too spooky, but you get some of the ideas and some of the stuff that you get. All these weird things. Does the government cover this stuff up? But maybe I should go for more spooky things now. Let's go and look at this. Spooky. Spooky tales of haunted vampire graves. Bizarre spooky cases of pale color humanoids. Maybe. The spooky and cell death of Mage Knight. Let's see. Spooky hunting of Seven Sisters Road. Maybe. Maybe. Let's see. I'm trying to find something more horrible at finding than this. Maybe try haunted. Haunted. I think it's haunted. Let me go down here. There was a. It's haunted. Let's go look at this. Positions like that. America's Horror Story, new season. Like Morena, California, like that. American Horror Story. Photos of ghosts in England's haunted. Maybe. Possible shadowing. No. Let's look at something creepy now. New ghostly details regarding the haunted Playboy Mansion. Recently, ghostly photo from the very haunted El Paso. Very haunted, huh? Italy's bizarre haunted village of wishes. We already covered that stuff like that. Somerset pub haunted by child. The Dark Angel, Ohio's. Real truth about the famous haunted Dybbuk. Ghost allegedly warns people to get out after entering haunted. All right. Secret passageway, hidden room, 3 ghosts. Hmm? Hmm. Haunted old village of Lurs is currently for sale. Maybe. I was hoping for something a bit more spooky, huh, folks? The haunted elephant of the San Diego County, Elephant Forest. Let's take a look at this one. This haunted forest, lying just southwest of Escondido in San Diego, California, is a rural, unincorporated residential community called Elephant Forest. Among the scattered houses are rolling hills, unspoiled campgrounds, and numerous hiking trails through winding pathways through an ancient, gnarled, and twisted trees, and the whole of it covering around 700 acres of forest. And, all right. Feel free to hit that like button, okay, folks? It really helps me fight the algorithm. As well as, please remember, if you want to watch this video again, please use the pinned tweet on my Twitter page at 777megachris1. There's a link directly to this video, so use that after I'm done making it, because YouTube buries my videos and won't be able to watch this video on my YouTube channel till sometime tomorrow. As well as, please hit that bell for notifications, and make sure to hit the part of the notification bell that will give you all future notifications for my videos. And please share this video out on Twitter, Facebook, Gab, and anywhere else. Let's see. Let's get back to this article. Acres of forest and hills. The area is home to a chapel and coastal sage scrub. Much of it endangered and found nowhere else on Earth, as well as many unique native bird species, reptiles, and amphibians. The area is very popular for hiking and horseback riding along the many serene trails to be found in the Elephant Forest Recreational Reserve, while as for the pub picnic areas and scenic mountain viewing points, and much of it possesses a charming and at times otherworldly, eerie semblance like something out of a fairy tale. Perhaps this quaint mixture of natural beauty and the surreal atmosphere that's helped people, the many spooky ghost stories that pervade this place. And Elephant Forest has gained a reputation as being one of the most haunted places in the world, with all manner of tales of ghosts and other paranormal entities lurking within the twisted trees. This is interesting, isn't it? There are so many weird stories. Yeah. Let me try that again. There are so many weird stories and legends orbiting the area. Let me try that again. Like that. There are so many weird stories and legends orbiting the area that it is hard to even know where to begin. One of the most well-known tales concerns an area called Harmony Grove, where in the 19th century, a group of mystical gypsies, set up a commune. As soon as they moved into the area, rumors began. Yeah, there were rumors that they were holding rituals and seances out there in the forest. And the story goes that they had an underground coven and cave system where they would engage in all sorts of perverse and weird occult activities, including human sacrifice. It did not help at all that they dressed very eccentrically with long flowing gowns and various cryptic amulets and charms. There were also stories that the gypsies were conjuring up the spirits of Indian children who had died, with locals increasingly reporting that they could see the apparitions of these children roaming about at night or the early hours of the morning, or could hear their disembodied giggling of shouts. There were also found anomalous footprints from the ghost children as well. This was all said to be because of the gypsies. According to the lore, none of this set very well at all with the increasingly frightened locals, who have finally managed to conjure up their bravery to form a mob to drive the gypsies away. This mob then descended upon the mysterious commune to viciously attack the gypsies, killing a few of them before they could escape. Those who lived then allegedly placed a curse on the land, and one of them allowed herself to be killed so that she may become protector of the area. This gypsy would then, from then on, be cited as a spectral woman dressed all in black and riding a black steed, with a supposed power to be able to kill with a glance. She will supposedly spiritually mark trespassers. Ever come back, she causes them to drop dead. Another purported power of this black-clad witch is the ability to cause insanity or to incite primal fear that forces visitors to flee screaming in abject terror. She continues to be said to this day. Other phenomena reported from Harmony Grove to this day are sudden cold chills, starry figures, ghosts of the Indian children. Rather oddly, the ghost of a man in a coat and bowler hat with a cane looking like a proper Englishman. who knows? Interestingly, in more modern times, this place has had other commune of occultists and spiritualists spring up in the area, who started the Harmony Grove Spiritual Center, claim to have made frequent contact with the ghosts of the Indian children, gypsies, the English gentleman. Whether Harmony Grove is really haunted or not is apparently a very spooky place to be, which has made it popular with paranormal investigators, occultists, and seekers and other seekers. Another popular story from the Elfin Forest is that the White Witch story begins back in the 19th century when a young woman was found aimlessly wandering around in quite a state. Her clothes were in tatters and she was wild-eyed and terrified, claiming that bandits had attacked and killed her husband and child. The woman was found to be one of the local villagers, and her family had disappeared the day before. This was very alarming news for everyone if such a bloody killers were in the area. The woman was nursed back to health, and after that apparently went a bit off the deep end and reverently studying about magic and the occult, as well as supposedly going off at night to meet with witches and Indian shamans. According to the tale, she was studying to be a magic user and witch in order to get the powers she needed to get revenge on those who had killed her husband and child. One day, she told the villagers that her training had been completed and that she was going to go kill the perpetrators, after which she walked off into the woods, never to be seen again. Not alive yet. Well, not alive, you know. In the years after this, people began to report seeing spectral women dressed all in white with witnesses were sure was the witch. The White Witch has been spotted by campers and hikers. Elfin Forest to this day usually described as floating above the ground, ignoring witnesses completely, simply wandering around as if she is looking for one thing, perhaps her family or maybe the bandits who killed them. Although the White Witch seems to be innocuous and is not typically considered to be a sinister presence, she has the instantly habit of appearing along roadways at times, in particular along quest along something like that, causing automobile accidents when she startles drivers. Indeed, many of the car crashes that happen in the Elfin Forest have been blamed on the White Witch, and she has become entranced in local lore. Right nearby, the White Witch's favorite haunt is the abandoned ruins of large buildings citing the rough behind rusted gates and 640 acres of wilderness called Cryptids, which sits right up against the Elfin Forest. The building is not much than some clumsy foundations, but is said to have once been an insane asylum where the residents were frequently tortured and died. The paranormal stories surrounding this place and its surrounding area are diverse, everything from apparitions of former patients, ghosts, Native Americans, who were basically put up and basically from what's the word I'm looking for? Well, where they were basically put up on trees, where they were seen up on trees. I'm just having a bit more fun with this and stuff like that. Roving black hellhounds black hellhounds, glowing eyes, and even a giant 10-foot tall white owl have been reported from here. A white owl, you say? 10-foot tall white owl. Wow, that sounds like aliens right there. Making it a bit by far the most, or maybe ultra-terrestrials. The most haunted areas of all, however much of Cryptids is now private land owned by a non-denominational religious retreat called the Crimson Retreat Church of the Holy Quest, making investigations difficult. This has not stopped trespassing thrill seekers from entering and coming back with all kinds of wild tales, considering that records show there was never an insane asylum here. To assume the aspect of the tale is just an urban legend, but the land of Haven seems to be haunted nevertheless. Most of these are probably urban legends that have sprouted out of the undeniable eeriness of the place, yet what if there is anything to them? What could we be dealing with here? Why? Should this place draw in such an intensity of such stories? Whatever the answers is to such questions, maybe walking perhaps in these woods. It's hard not to imagine there's something perhaps lurking past the trees and in this place. Not bad. Let's go and look at some more articles, right? On ghosts and cryptids and other spooky things. Let's try this. By Spooky Monsters. When lake monsters become totally deadly. There's that. Look at that. Taking a look, strange birds and bird-like monsters. Yes. Real encounters with monsters under the bed. Okay, let's take a look at this. There are many strange phenomenon that seem to revolve around certain childhood fears and fascinations. There are many. Let me reread that. There are many strange phenomena that seem to be revolved around certain childhood fears and fascinations. I've covered some of these here because with monsters in the closet, as well as basement-dwelling entities, even hunting teddy bears. So I figured, why not complete it with that persistent fixture of childhood terror, monsters under the bed. Very many children have expressed their fear of what lies coiled in the shadows under their bed. And it's not a fear that is even confined to kids, yet here is there something more to it? All that is running wild of imaginations jumping at things that go bump in the night. Here are some very creepy encounters with the unexplained that imply that maybe there really is something hiding under the bed of yours, cloaked in the shadows and ready to strike. One very spooky encounter comes to us from Reddit user who claims that he was around 5 years old at the time, but remembers that, well, like it was last week. According to the witness, he and his family lived in a bad apartment in a bad neighborhood, and he says that one night there he heard strange noises in his room coming from under the bed, which got so intense that he ran into his parents' room to sleep with them. The parents themselves shrugged it off as a kid's imagination playing tricks on him, and sort of wrote it all off. However, on the second night, things would take a turn for the more frightening, he says. Okay. Sounds interesting, doesn't it, folks? What do you think? Do you think he actually encountered these weird creatures? What do you think about that? Is it real? Is there such a thing as monsters under your bed? Is it real? On the second night, I was caught by surprise anymore. That's when I first said it, warned them of what I already knew. There was a monster under my bed. But grown-ups do not believe children, not with anything that matters anyway. We think they have limited understanding of the world because they're not yet shackled by the chains of logic. Mom and Dad went into the room. Dad checked under the bed and even acted like someone had grabbed his feet, but it was just a joke. They told me there were no monsters in real life, and if there were, they'd be friendly monsters like the ones I used to watch on Sesame Street. I kept insisting they got mad, so that she was very tired of working long hours while pregnant and would hear no more of it. Father was a bit more understanding, but they only for the first couple of days. After that, he refused to go into my room and rolled his eyes whenever I brought up the monster. I even heard them talking outside our apartment once, saying they wouldn't respond when I talked about monsters anymore, that I'll never learn if they do, saying I need to see the doctor if that continued. My memories of the doctor were not fond ones, so that's when I gave up. I didn't call them that night nor any other night for the next 5 months as we lived there. I knew they wouldn't come, but the noises would it always did. I was almost asleep very late in the night. It was right under my bed. First, a very faint crying noise. If the floor was thicker, maybe I wouldn't even hear it. And this whole story wouldn't exist. Then the steps, loud but uneven, stumbling probably right outside the room. Then a terrifying squeak, a door being pushed, a crying voice. I Troil's voice. She said, "No, Daddy, please not today." And then the monster spoke, and it was the only thing he would ever say. "Shut up." From the site of the True Gross Tales comes another creepier of an account, which supposedly happened in 2007, as the witness was living alone in an apparent apartment she described as being haunted with flickering lights and her pet acting up as no discernible reason. This was all very spooky enough as it is, but things would graduate to her being woke by a feeling of something sitting atop her, which left her feeling drained of energy with an aftertaste of dread. Then one night, as she lay awake, waiting for something to happen, it did. Up from under their bed kept a shadowy entity with apparently malevolent intent, of which she says, it was about the size of an average person. It was all black and looked as if it was wearing a cloak and hood, much like the Grim Reaper, the ghost of Christmas yet to come from A Christmas Carol. It was transparent, but blacker than black, darker than the darkness of the room. At one point, I thought I could make out its glowing orange eyes, but as soon as it saw that I could move my head, it forced my face into the pillow, and I felt it stick something into my back and the back of my neck. Whatever it stuck in me felt like a jolt of electricity, and I felt my body being pressed hard into the mattress. A familiar buzzing sound was louder. This sounds like an alien abduction. And at one point, I couldn't even breathe and thought I was going to suffocate. Then it spoke in the most evil voice you could ever imagine. I'll never forget what it said as long as as I will never forget. It said, I will see to it that you never experience real happiness for the rest of your life. You weren't supposed to live. I was so premature when I was born. The doctors told my parents that I wouldn't live, but they were obviously wrong. What was this thing? What did it want? The site of Your Ghost Stories, which compiles real accounts from people all over the world telling of their brochures with the paranormal, a treasure trove of such cases, each almost more bizarre than the next. In one account, the witness says that she used to live in a 4-bedroom house in the state of Illinois with her parents and grandparents. One night, she claims that she came home from dinner out with her grandparents. It was when the paranormal came to her. That's when the paranormal would come for her. Let's get into this. My grandparents and I had just gotten back from the old country buffet. It was getting pretty late. As soon as I got home, I ran into my bathroom, then decided I should maybe change my clothes and get ready for bed. I said, hey, since the whole house is pitch black, I could walk and get my clothes naked. I took all of my clothes off and kicked them behind the bathroom door and proceeded down the hallway in the dark. To remind you, it's pitch dark. No lights were on. I got to my great-grandma's room and reached around for the dresser, trying to remember where everything was, counting the drawer handles to make sure I'm getting the right clothes. Something caught my eye from under my great-grandma's bed. I looked in the bed sheets that hung off the bed frame were flickering and were curved just a little, as if someone was peeking. I adjusted my vision and saw a glowing white pale face looking right at me. The bed sheets were moving because its hand was moving the sheets to peek at me. I screamed like no other. I flew straight out of my house naked. I had told my mother and grandparents what I had seen. They went back into the room and found nothing. There was nothing under the bed at all. The sheets weren't even meshed up. I stood outside naked for at least 1 hour before going back inside. In another creepy account, the witness says that he was living in Wisconsin when he was 12 years old and that he would begin to experience unexplainable phenomenon at night, which seemed to emanate from under the bed, the witness says. I remember just getting to rest my bed on my pillow when I would feel something like a fish push up on the mattress beneath me. It was not sleep. I was not sleeping. I was not imagining it. I would physically sit up, turn my lamp on, watch my bed move up and down on that spot. Like I said before, this did not happen to me just once, but several times when I was young. My parents lived on the opposite side of the house, and there was no one that could easily fit under my bed. I was always too scared to try and jump off and run, or even just look underneath and see what it was, for fear it would get me. After about 1 minute of it starting, it would stop and not come back for at least a few nights. I never did tell my parents about it, even though it would keep me up late some nights, sleep deprived. I think it's just because it would happen so fast, and when I woke up in the morning, I wouldn't be thinking about it until I was the next night already. The years following this, I think I still have an irrational fear to sit in my bed with my feet on the ground and feel really uncomfortable when I do. I also still have not been able to explain why this happened to me during that age, but I definitely remember every bit of it truly happening. Yeah, and in yet another case, a witness says he was 6 years old at the time, and of course remembers it as clear as day. At the time, he lived in a trailer park in Pennsylvania that seems to have been very haunted. He describes how they would hear footsteps at all hours walking through the trailer, and how he and his older sister had screamed when she saw a shadowy figure lurking at the foot of her bed or outside of her window, which would vanish right before her eyes. Then there began this disturbance stirring on her bed, and he says, every night I would get ready to go to sleep and my bed would start shaking very slowly. Then after a while it would shake faster. This first time it was happened to me, I ran out of my room and told my parents. They said it was just a washer and dryer. But the thing I did get was, even when the washer and dryer were not on my bed, it would still shake. Eventually, I started to sleep on the couch, but the same thing started to happen, which resulted in me sleeping on the floor beside my bed. I slept on the floor for over 2 years. I never slept in my bed until we moved out. The house was moved into it was nearly built house, and even though we moved, I still did not on my bed Did not on my bed. That was until a few months ago. Still today, nobody believes me, but I know what happened after the experience is when I started to get really interested in the supernatural. Our next report comes from a witness who was also quite young during her encounters at 12 years old. At the time, her family had a cat who roamed around the premise with a little bell around her neck, and she claims that she had a frightening encounter with the paranormal as she was lying down not to go to sleep. She said one night, she says, "Yeah, that's it. Cool, huh? It's very cool to think about what's happening. Do you think these? What do you think about these encounters, folks? Leave me a few chats. I want to hear for your ideas on what these things are. Do you think these are tulpas caused by their fear, or do you think these are actual paranormal entities that they're encountering? Some of these sound like alien abduction cases. Others sound like they could be ghosts. Could very well be. Let's get back to this. So, as I prepared my bed, which was a sofa that converted into a bed, I proceeded to turn off all the lights and the television. Lie down. After a long while of trying to sleep, I hear this heavy breathing noise that seemed to originate from under my bed. I thought to myself that it was probably my imagination, or that it was probably breathing so heavy that I could hear it myself. With that thought in my mind, I then decided to hold my breath and then stop breathing to see if it was me. To my surprise, I still heard the breathing just as heavy as ever. As the breathing was still going on, I thought that it could probably have been the cat. Regardless, though, I was frozen in fear, did not dare to move, and I was thinking of grabbing the television remote control to turn it on, although I didn't actually remember if I did or not, so I was wondering if it was the cat or not. I then heard the cat's bell jingle 2 rooms down out of my room. That just freaked me out. Not even more, since this happened so long ago. I don't actually remember how I spent the rest of the night. Anybody have any ideas of what it could have been? I just remember the next morning when I checked under my bed and the couch had found nothing. How much more of this do we have left? All right, maybe not that much more. All right. Going outside the U.S., we have an account reported from a witness in South Africa, an adult with 2 young sons, age three and stuff. She says strange things started when she was living in a cottage one night. Her children woke up her with panic-framed screams, and they could tell that there was something lurking under their bed. The woman had various pastors come in to bless the place, but nothing seemed to ever help. The exasperated woman says, "I tried everything and even got numerous pastors out to bless my cottage and my kids. This didn't help. Eventually, I got frustrated. My eldest son kept talking of a person called Hank." Hunk? We don't know any Hunk. I finally found a couple. I know it's Hank, folks. Hunk. Let's call him Hank. People call themselves Spitsha. They came to my house and did a paranormal investigation. The outcome was a picture of a man's face in the window and a child's voice saying, "Made contact after this, I moved." Things settled down and there was no longer any talk of the guy. However, after the last few months, my sons have become more and more scared to go into their new bedroom, and I now have them both sleeping on a mattress in my bedroom. At night, when I ask them what is wrong, they tell me that there is a monster in my younger son's bed. Now I have removed everything from under their bed, so they now can see that there is nothing there. When I ask what this monster is, it looks like they describe a boy. We have also had our wall unit move on its own, and the toilet seat, if up, is slammed down, or if it is down, gets put up. And I'm freaking out. I cannot keep moving around, and I don't know if it is the same boy from the previous house or it just chose another haunted house. It's interesting to note that many of such accounts are reported by people who were children when they had their experiences, as if they are somehow more in tune with these supernatural forces. Although not always witnessed purely by children, it does seem worth noting that many of the cases of monsters in their bed do come from people who were very young at the time of the incidents, leaving one to wonder why this might be. Of course, as mentioned in my article, encounters with imaginary friends, it could be that they are simply more sensitive to these forces and able to see things that adults cannot, or perhaps it is just an artifact of this particular developmental period, thus burdening imagination, which makes even the simplest noise at night into a monster, as one child psychologist has said. Children don't have the years of experience coping with such sounds at night and mastering the art, blah, 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 blah. This is what this guy says. I think I'll skip that part. Another theory is that this could be an evolutionary throwback of some primal fear lurking within the dim recesses of some part of our brain, which children are more in tune with. Peter Gray, professor of psychology at Boston, has said. I think I'll skip that part too. It could very well be, and stuff like that. Could be, yeah. But I think I'm going to skip out. Could be supernatural as well. And this is them trying to basically say, maybe this is all in your heads, or maybe it's something else and stuff like that. But it's all very interesting to talk about and think about, isn't it, folks? We had a good live stream tonight. And I just want to basically end it on the spooky stuff about saying that, yeah, they probably did experience real supernatural creatures under their bed. Now, folks, please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Read Comics, They're Bad for You, okay? The there in my title is misspelled. It's Read Comics, They're Bad for You. The there is spelled T-H-E-R-E. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications, and hit the part of the notification bell that will give you all future notifications for my videos. Also, please share this video out on Twitter and Facebook. And remember, folks, this video you can watch again on my Twitter page at @77. Yeah, it's the name of my Twitter page is @777megachris1. It will be on the first pinned tweet. Well, there'll be a link to this video on the first pinned tweet. Yeah, on the first pinned tweet. As well as remember, share this video out on Twitter and Facebook. Also, folks, please go over and subscribe to Stitched Together Pics. Stitched Together Pics is a great YouTube channel that deserves far more subscribers. It's hosted by the Maniacal Cinephile. This character has multiple personalities, and you're not just getting one character, you're getting a whole lot. He does these reviews of movies that you're really going to enjoy. So go and subscribe to Stitched Together Pics. As well as go over and subscribe to Robot Co-op. Robot Co-op is like Mr. Science Theater 3000. So remember, go and subscribe to them as well. They do these live streams with these robot puppets that are just great. They are just fun to watch. So go and subscribe to Robot Co-op. Right, as well as go over and subscribe to Creepy Little Book. Creepy Little Book is like the Art Bell radio show. He does little videos talking about this stuff as well, but he also does live streams every night. He live streams on weekdays at 12:30 a.m. and on weekends at 10 o'clock p.m. He talks about aliens and ghosts, and he learns so much from watching Creepy Little Book, so go and subscribe to him. Remember, folks, I'll be back again tomorrow around 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or 11 o'clock p.m. for another live stream, so be sure to come back again then. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me.